Hi, everybody. This is a Jeff Townsend media production. Rawr.
Have you been searching for a podcast? Do you want to learn from some great content creators? Well, you've come to the right place. Indie Podcaster with your host, Jeff Townsend, the Indie Podcast Father.
This is Jeff Townsend. As you are aware, Indie Podcaster's currently on a break. I'm busy with running a network that I have through a local media company, and then all sorts of other projects that I'm working on through Jeff Townsend Media. But I wanted to keep the spirit alive and keep delivering you content that you may find helpful that will help you grow as a podcaster or content creator. Fuzz Martin and I purchased the rights to formerly Tanner Campbell's Podcasting Sucks and Good Morning Podcasters. So I'm actually going to share an episode of Podcasting Sucks with you, a previous episode. If you want to hear more, go to goodmorningpodcasters.com and find Podcasting Sucks there. This is Fuzz and I talking about various different podcasting stuff. It's a great time. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to share this episode with you. Thanks for tuning in. Welcome to Podcasting Sucks. I'm Jeff Townsend. My best friend Fuzz Martin is with me. We're binge recording here, Fuzz. We're binge recording.
We're batch recording. I think batch recording just sounds so much more, like a fish.
Yeah. But we just recorded basically an update on Good Morning Podcasters and Podcasting Sucks. Obviously, your format on Good Morning Podcasters does not allow you to give detailed thoughts and updates. And so that was a pretty, I don't know, maybe no one else will like it, but I think it was a good 30-minute spent.
I think so too. I think it was good. I think we went into some details, and I really think the behind the scenes stuff, I don't think people hear enough about at times. And I enjoy listening to that stuff. I enjoy hearing the reasons behind why a show does what it does, or how somebody got into that role and those kind of things. And to me, that's entertainment. It's pulling back the curtain and allowing people to see what goes into
inside the shower.
Exactly. Yes, inside the shower. Oh no, different. Different things.
Yeah, different genre.
That's Greg's genre over there. But speaking of that, we were going to talk this episode about podcasting horror stories.
Content creation, horror stories. Yeah. Anything that relates. Yeah. I'm excited.
Yeah. I've got a number of them from my days on the air. And actually some from podcasting as well that are my podcasting horror story is a doozy, though. I feel like I need to give you a trigger warning to you specifically, Jeff. So, but it is jarring.
I want to kick it off though, because I have a quick funny one.
Yeah.
That I know a listener of this podcast will absolutely hate because it's involving him. So I will kick off. It's not necessarily the horror. It's kind of a horror story, but I'll explain why. It's not really his fault, but I'll kick it off. If that's okay with you.
Yeah, that works for me. Hit it.
One of our good friends, great guy. Love the guy. Talk to him all the time. I consider him a good friend. Ed Havens, 80s movie podcast. He's a genius on 80s cinema, particularly stuff you've never heard of. So check out the 80 Movies podcast. But so when I launched Indie Podcaster, was that almost 2 years ago? I did a bunch of batch recordings before I even put out I probably had 15 recordings under my belt before I released. Ed was one of them. And I had been just batch recording like crazy. My wife is pissed off. So this is like towards the end of it. This was like the last one that I was going to go to like one a week.
Okay.
And it was later in the week. And I'm like, I will be home by this time. I will be home. She's like, no, you won't. I'm like, you have my word. I will be home by 7 p.m. And she's like, no, you won't, but whatever. And and behind the scenes, right? We're divorced now, but it's all Ed's fault. Damn it! No, I'm just
damn
kidding.
you, Ed.
So I'm like, okay, here we go. 6 o'clock is the scheduled time. Ed has been up my.
Yes.
I'll try not to use swear languages. Yep. He has been saying things like, "I've already told you I'd come onto the podcast," like tweeting at me constantly in front of everybody.
That is a very good Ed impersonation, by the way.
Yeah. Well, thank you. So we arranged it. Then I'm waiting for this guy. And the whole time I'm thinking, I got to get home by 7 o'clock. I don't hear anything for like several minutes. And he has a different version. He says it's 15, but it was more than that. Trust me. He has some like emergency with his water or pipes or something.
Okay.
And I'm like, oh my gosh, let's reschedule, Ed. And he's like, no, just a few more minutes. So, and it goes on. It's damn near 6:30 when we start, right? And I'm thinking at the back of my head, I got to be home by 7. Got to be home by 7. Like, because she is pissed off.
How far again? Away was the studio?
15 minutes.
Okay.
I was 15 minutes from home.
All right.
Where I was recording.
Yep.
And I knew I was toast already. So then I start talking to Ed, and I hadn't spoke with him that much, just on tweets. And I had listened to his podcast.
Yep.
Long-winded fella. We love Ed.
Yes.
But, and Greg actually loves this episode because I talked for like a minute and a half of the hour. So Ed gets in there late, right? He keeps saying, just give me a minute. So he comes on and we go over an hour. We go like an hour and 12 minutes.
Okay.
My wife is pissed. And I'm like, oh.
Do you hear the iPhone notifications going off? Like your phone's on silent? Bling,
well,
bling.
It was on silent, but I'm hearing zzz, 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 and Ed's just in 1984, George Orwell. Yeah, I mean,
yes.
And it was interesting. It was a great conversation. I absolutely loved it. But it was just funny, though, because I said, I will be home. I swear I will be home at 7 p.m. And because of our good friend Ed Havens, I don't think I've even told him the extent of this. I did not make it home at my promised time. That's a lighthearted one to start off with there.
Dang it. Well, we won't blame him for the divorce, though. So
maybe just a little bit. No, I'm just kidding. No, it's not his fault.
I have a series of lighthearted ones, all about the same guy. From my radio days. So did you ever watch The Office? Were you an Office guy?
Yeah, I was an Office. I was not like the biggest Office guy, but I've seen most episodes of The Office.
Okay. I had never been an Office guy until the beginning of COVID. Like I'd watched, like The Office was something I would turn on when I was traveling for work and I would get to a hotel room and I knew that it would be something consistent and something that, like I could just turn on, there would be a channel playing it. And I'd watch it, but I never had actually watched all of them until the pandemic hit. And then I started watching them. But upon watching it, I realized that my general manager from my final radio station that I was at, and I was there for 11 years, that he was Michael Scott. He may have been more Michael Scott than Michael Scott was. So I have a host of different instances. So, do you remember when Gilbert Gottfried, who was the voice of the Aflac Duck, had gotten himself in trouble? I think he said something. I don't know if it was.
He said, "Yeah,
it was something racist or something like that."
Yeah, I believe so.
So, Aflac was looking for a new voice for the Aflac Duck. Aflac, you know that.
Yep.
So Jim was the name of my general manager, and he decided he was going to try out for this, but he didn't know how to record into Adobe Audition because he didn't want to have to be stuck recording radio spots and things like that. So he always tried. He was always tried to be ignorant to it, so that either somebody else had to record him or he just could say no. But he knew how to record into a radio station number. We had a thing called Audio Vault, which was where we'd store our commercials and that kind of stuff. Well, he typed in a 4-digit number and recorded over this number, just thinking like, there's no way that I could randomly record over a number, and you can kind of see where this is going.
Yeah.
He recorded 4 minutes of him doing, 2 minutes of him doing different duck voices. Affleck. And he was like doing like a Spanish version, like Affleckissimo, and like that kind of stuff.
Oh my God.
And 2 minutes of just that. And he recorded it over a client's commercial file that the next day ran from midnight until I got into the radio station. Every commercial break, there was 2 minutes of Jim doing his Affleck demo. And now, again, it was like midnight till 4:30 in the morning. It wasn't the prime time listening, but I'm sure there were some truck drivers out there that were changing the channel because they hadn't heard that.
Do you think you should have went back to Affleck for some money for all the advertising, right?
I feel like we should have, yes. And I feel like knowing our salespeople at the radio station, they probably tried. Do you know who Leroy Butler was? The Green Bay Packers linebacker or safety, safety. He invented the Lambeau Leap. Are you familiar with the Lambeau Leap?
Yes.
Okay.
Familiar with the Lambeau Leap.
Yeah. So he's the guy who invented the Lambeau Leap. Well, one day he came to our studio, and this was in probably it was probably like 2002. And Jim, who grew up in probably the whitest area in Wisconsin, like the center of Wisconsin where there's no diversity at all. Leroy walked into our office and he goes, "Leroy, for shizzle my nizzle." And we said, "Hey, Jim, no, please come here to the back room and let us explain to you why that is not appropriate for you, a 57-year-old white guy in a suit, to say to anybody, first of all, much less a person of color." So yes, there was.
I think that's just cool, though. Says something.
Yeah, I know. Yes,
about him.
exactly. But it was mostly like just it wasn't. It was just all out of ignorance. Like it was very Michael Scott-ish,
Yeah.
My favorite personal story of this, and I won't go. We don't have to go forever on this one, but I was 20. I think I was 21 years old. Yeah, I was 21. I had just started working at the radio station part-time. On the weekends, I was board opping NASCAR races. So board opping is you sit in the studio behind the soundboard, and when it's time to go to commercials, you hit the commercial break and play that. And then every so often you come in with time and temperature. Well, he didn't realize it was in the office because it was a Saturday race, and typically races were on Sundays. NASCAR races are typically on Sundays. So I popped my head into his office to say, "Hey, my name's Fuzz. I'm your new guy." Well, I pop in his office. His face turns white. I look down, and you can hear like the printers back in 2000 were really loud. And I see that he is printing porn onto the like porno pictures on his printer. And so embarrassed, he takes a stack of blank papers and throws it at the printer, trying to cover up what he's printing. But what it does, the turbulence from him throwing it caused all of the pictures he had printed to fly up into the air and then gently drift down with naked bodies all over the office.
You just see boobs flying in the air, floating in the air.
Exactly it. And I think he was like doing something for a bachelor party or something stupid. But so that was my first instance meeting this guy. And I have a thread on my Twitter page that has about 10 more stories similar to that. So check it out at Fuzz Martin. But yeah, that stuff was crazy.
Yeah. It reminds me that that last one and this, everybody listening's probably heard me tell the story about when I dropped and invented a word on the radio. This was in Washington, the state of Washington,
Okay.
quite a while ago. I was doing an 8:00 segment. I was allowed to do an interview with a city official. This was really like Jeff transitioned into like more of a voice part in the morning, and by letting me do miscellaneous things in the morning. And I had only been a few months, but I was like, hey, this is a cool opportunity. It's like 8:30 in the morning. It's a really big time for the radio. People are in their car on their way to work, huge time. And I won't go into too much detail because I've have before. But I was interviewing a city official, older lady, nice lady. And at one point, I was attempting to ask her about her successful career. But for some reason, the word came out sexful career. I asked her about her
How's your sexful career?
And I don't even, is sexful even a word? It should be now.
I mean, I think it is now. Yeah. I think you've,
but yeah, that I wasn't on air ever again, but 8:30 in the morning is not a good time in a pretty decently populated area to use the word sexful with a city official when you're talking about a serious matter like crime. And I dropped, of course, not intentionally, like I said, not even a word, but it somehow stumbled because I'm not the best speaker. I'm not like you. I don't have some, Fuzz Martin here from WKIC Milwaukee, but I'm entertaining enough as a person. But yeah, I dropped sexful and that was about the end of it. So they probably still think of me as sexful Jeff.
Sexful Jeff. We may just start calling you that.
That's a t-shirt. That's a t-shirt.
That is a t-shirt. Again, don't buy them in bulk. Sell them on Printful.
I'm putting together, actually, that's what I've been working on today, a little t-shirt website. So maybe I'll get sexful Jeff in there.
What are you using for your website?
Spring Tea.
Okay.
I'm going to get a custom domain with it. Sure. I was actually going to ask if you want anything on there, but yeah, I'm going to try to tie that up and do that here the next couple of days to get that done.
Excellent. I've got a few ideas. We'll talk off the air.
Cool.
So speaking of that kind of, so do you know who Delilah is? The famous like radio, she's on like smooth, like, or not, like easy listening stations, right?
Yeah. Easy. Yeah. Like laid back. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's a syndicated show, and the way syndicated
like
shows
Delilah
work.
here.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That's exactly.
Yeah. Yep.
So there was a country version. I don't know if there still is, but there was a country version of Delilah, and her name was Leah. And yeah, which is like, and she looks,
country has to have their own version of everything.
Yeah. And she looks the same as Delilah and sounds the same, but she was country version, and her name was spelled Lia. We were a Leah affiliate at the radio station. She had put out a thing saying that she was looking for people to talk about NASCAR. And for 2 years, I was a announcer at a short track racetrack. So I've spent some time near racers. I grew up going to racetracks, and I have a love for it. So they told me they wanted to talk to me about it, about me, like we were going to discuss like who they were going to get on their syndicated show as their like NASCAR person. So I'd done a bunch of research and all this stuff and was ready for the question. Well, they called me during the day because they record the show. It's not a live show.
Right.
And they were recording the show. And so just kind of surprised me with like, oh my God, like, hey, we're on the, essentially we're live. And I was not prepared for that. And I tanked miserably. I was bad. And so I didn't get the job. And
kind of a messed up thing to do to someone.
It was. I really felt I was embarrassed, and it was like I knew what was going on for the the day, but it was like I was not prepared for it. So I don't know if they ended up going with somebody else or what. I stopped listening to the show, even though it was at my station. I didn't want to hear. It's like
you never listen to NASCAR again.
Yeah. Yes. Exactly.
Never watched it. So I mean, hey, to your defense, I would have done worse. I probably wouldn't have known what to say. I would have been like, NASCAR. Like, I wouldn't have known, what to say or do. So I'm sure it was better than what I would have done.
NASCAR has 4 syllables. Another instance of some like podcasting or recording horror stories.
Content create. Yeah.
So I used to record. My job was to write commercials, and that was my first radio job, was writing commercials, and then it was producing commercials, and being on the air was just kind of a part of what I did. But that was really the thing that I got paid for, was doing that consistent work. We had an NFL fullback come in, and I won't say his name because I don't want to out him, but he's a good dude. He's a super good dude. But he was supposed to come in to record a car dealership commercial. And he was either nervous or he had trouble reading. And I could not tell which one it was, but he could not read the 30-second script. Like, hi, my name is his name, like, for this car dealership, like, come to this place and, you get this, whatever. So we struggled for probably 45 minutes, and he was getting frustrated, and you could tell he was embarrassed. And I was just like, hey, I've got a plan. I'm going to read this to you, and I want you to read every sentence back to me the way that I say it, exactly the way I say it. So I would read a sentence, he would read it back to me the same way, or like a section even of a sentence, and he'd read it back to me.
Yeah. Until
at the end, we put it all together, and it sounded like he was just friggin' amazing. But it was like, he just needed that. But it was like, all told, it probably took 2 hours to record that 30-second commercial, and another, probably hour to edit it to get that 30 seconds down to what we needed. But man, it was, sometimes you watch or listen to some of those, things you see on the air, and you don't know what went into that, because that.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'll segue that into some things. I've done a lot of local stuff like you have, and I got several examples, but one recent one, my first episode for Indiana Stories, I spoke to the Vincennes, Indiana historian, senior citizen guy, 80 years old. And this is like a completely different challenge for podcasting. When you are remote, or even if you're not remote, it's still hard doing it on trying to walk him through it. I tried to get him here on Boomcaster.
Yep.
That wasn't going to happen. Ended up being Zoom on his phone.
Okay.
Him and his wife. But those kind of things, it's really difficult when you're talking to when you're doing an interview podcast with somebody who has no technological experience at all.
Yep.
There's so many stories I could talk about from that, but I'm sure you're the same way, because you do things around the community. You have to be patient, and it's just like you accommodated for that gentleman, and you have to do the same thing here. First of all, 100%. The guy is a complete whiz, but he just doesn't know how to set up he doesn't know anything about podcasting or a computer,
Yep.
So you have to accommodate in order to get what you need and get the job done.
Exactly.
And be kind doing it. Or if I'm just going to be an a-hole, then it's not going to be good. You can't just upset people. So it's really getting through the frustration sometimes, because some people are just not at a level like we are even setting or doing this.
100%. And I think, if like one tip that I have, if you're setting out on a journey to do interview podcasts in person, and especially with people who aren't used to being on the, the microphone or a radio, whatever, my biggest suggestion for equipment would be to get headset microphones like they wear at sportscasting, because every single time the mic will be positioned in the right position, and they're set up for noise and background. They're set up for people who are broadcasting at football and basketball games and things like that. And you don't have to worry about if the person turns away from the microphone like this and that, because you're going to want a dynamic microphone that cuts out, background noise and things like that, if you're on location. So I highly recommend a headset mic, at least for the guest. And that'll go great. But I've been in your shoes with the recording somebody who is, a farmer. We did a whole bunch of, we did some market research on cattle farmers during the beginning of the pandemic at Epic.
Yeah.
And it was so hard getting guys to
Mhm.
know how to use Zoom that don't normally do it or have bad internet and those kind of things. It's such a big challenge. It's so hard. We made it happen, but it wasn't meant for broadcast at that point. It was just meant to make sure that we could actually connect with them. So, but all good stuff. And yeah, again, podcasting isn't easy. If it was easy, pretty much everybody does do podcasting, is it? Don't they?
Yeah. I have one more tragic story.
Oh, okay. Oh, a tragic one. Okay.
It's horror though. I won't give out any information out of respect for the family and the location. I was doing a local podcast and there was this house that was famously haunted. Tragic story about a murder that took place there. And the gentleman that I was going to speak to, he did tours there all the time. He was actually the son of his father was murdered in that house.
Oh my gosh.
By his mother.
Wow.
Then as she took her own life, but this house is like crazy haunted, right?
Yeah.
And I'm going to go there on site and talk with him. And this is a famous haunted location. Like I said, I won't.
Yeah.
I'm going to exploit in details, but I have an arrangement to go record with him there. I'm excited, right? Because I like that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I get there, the cops are there.
Oh my.
He has been murdered.
Are you serious?
Hours before I was supposed to talk to him about this haunted house that was haunted because his mother had murdered his father. He was murdered by his girlfriend.
Jesus.
Fiance.
Yeah.
And that really was like, I was like, oh my God, like, what are the odds of that? Like, I was supposed to meet this guy, and hours before he is murdered in a similar fashion that his father was.
Yeah.
In the same house that's known all around the state for being so haunted. That's a horror story right there. But no,
it is.
That really made me think for a while. I was like, did they just say what? Because I pull it up and I'm kind of like, of course they're not going to let you go up there. They've got it blocked off. I could see the house in the distance. It's stopped. I'm stopped at the street. And I'm like, what happened here? They're like, they didn't even tell me. Then they're like, this is a crime scene, active crime scene. I can't speak on it. I didn't find out till later.
Oh my gosh.
Like hours later that he was, found somebody murdered. And I was like, what the heck? Then a couple of days after that, they came out. And that's when they had arrested the fiance girlfriend for it. But how crazy is that?
That is absolutely crazy. And good thing she didn't show up while you guys were recording.
That's what I was thinking. Like, what would have happened? Like, we're talking about this terrible event that happened in the house to his family.
Yeah.
And I was just, I don't know, 3 hours from when something terrible happened to him. It's one of those things where it makes you think about life, I guess.
I would say so. Yeah. Yeah. That would make podcasting suck for sure.
Yeah. I had to take a few days off after that one.
I know for sure. I don't blame you.
That's a horror story by definition, Fuzz.
We just got done watching The Watcher on Netflix.
Yeah.
So I think I've had enough of like haunted house kind of things for a while.
I enjoyed that. I enjoyed that series.
Did you? Okay. Yeah. We did too, but it was just,
not the best thing ever, but it's entertaining.
Yeah. Not what we normally watch, but yeah, it was good. So
normally watch Married with Children. So it was probably
normally we're just all we watch is The Simpsons, but only the 90s episodes. Yeah.
Oh, Bob's Burgers.
Yeah, Bob's Burgers, exactly. That's our fave. So, Jeff, great as always to talk to you. Podcasting can be difficult, as evidenced by some of the horror stories we shared. It can be fun and exhilarating too. The horror stories are, they create stories, and those are things you're going to tell well into your future, no matter how hard they are. But it's all fun. Enjoy it. Enjoy the ride. Have a good time with it.
There are more positive stories than horror stories.
Exactly.
However, you have to walk away from these horror stories with something, a learning experience or something if you can, or a moment that'll last forever.
That's exactly right. Or you get murdered on the steps of your interviewee's haunted house. You know, one of those three things can happen at any given point. But we do appreciate you listening to Podcasting Sucks here on the Good Morning Podcasters feed. Jeff, thanks for all you do for the podcasting community. And, I'm looking forward to the next Podcasting Power Hour, which are Monday nights at 9 p.m. Eastern Time on Twitter. And talk to you next time.
And I will end it with this. Make sure you look out for the Ed Havens. Make sure you don't talk and use the word sexful to respected people in the community. Make sure you're not printing off porn at work. Make sure you're not getting into an active crime scene. These are all very important things that can make podcasting suck.
True. Thanks for listening.
Pretty good. Thanks for listening, and thanks for telling a friend. But more importantly, thank you for supporting independent content creators. If you're enjoying the podcast or like the work we're doing in the indie podcaster community, I ask you to tell just one fellow content creator that hasn't heard of this podcast or the work we're doing and share it with them. But more importantly, I hope you continue with me on this journey as the indie podcaster. Keep being you. Keep being great. And the question is, do I stay here? Will you be back? Are you gonna come back? Will you be back? Are you coming back?
Jeff Townsend Media.